I just cracked open a cold beer, first one of the weekend, when Liz walked in with that look. Not angry, not sad, just off. I was in sweats, leaning back on the couch, half watching some rerun of Deadliest Catch and looking forward to leftovers in silence. But that look, it kicked my instincts into high gear. She sat down across from me and folded her hands like she was about to pitch a business deal. "Tim," she started, her voice smooth and rehearsed. "I've been thinking a lot. About us. About life." I took a sip, trying to keep the edge off. "All right, what's on your mind?" Then came the words that should have shattered me, but instead ignited something deeper. "I want a month to explore myself, date other men, try new things, before we settle down and have a family." I froze. She called it sexual growth, said her therapist and Nora, her divorced, twice-burned best friend, had helped her realize she hadn't lived yet, that she felt stuck and confused, that she needed this before she could truly commit to me and our future. As if cheating was just some form of yoga retreat. "You want to sleep with other guys for a month?" I said flatly. "No drama, just facts." She nodded as if it made sense, as if she expected me to nod too. "Have I done something wrong?" I asked, setting my beer down slowly. "No," she said quickly. "This isn't about you. It's about me. I love you, Tim. I do. But I need to figure myself out before we..." "Stop." I raised my hand. My tone dropped, and so did her fake calm. "You want to go find yourself? Do it. But don't expect to find me waiting." She looked startled, like I was supposed to cry. "Beg. Be understanding. I thought you'd be more open-minded," she said, her voice losing confidence. "Yeah. Well, I was open-minded when I said, I do. I thought that meant something to you. Guess I was wrong." She looked away, maybe expecting some dramatic yelling. But I wasn't that kind of man. Never was. My dad taught me real anger doesn't scream. It acts. "You walk out that door to go find yourself with another man," I said slowly, standing. "You don't walk back in." She laughed a little nervously. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said. "I'm being crystal clear." She shook her head, already pulling her phone out, probably texting Nora. "I thought you'd understand." "I do," I said, walking past her. "I understand perfectly. You're not confused. You're just selfish, and that's fine. But don't mistake me for a fool." She didn't get it yet. She thought this was just a detour, a little exploration and then back to stability. But me, I was already gone. I slept in the guest room that night, door locked, mind racing. While she dreamed of freedom, I was already planning what came next. She left the next evening wearing a tight black dress and the kind of perfume you don't put on for your husband. Said she and Nora were just going for drinks. I didn't ask questions. I didn't need to. I just watched from the porch, arms crossed, as she walked to her car without even glancing back. I gave her one warning, and she ignored it. So I made damn sure she wouldn't ignore what came next. The second her taillights disappeared around the corner, I went inside, locked the front door, and got to work. First stop, the garage. Her spare key? Gone. Her garage door clicker? Yanked from the visor and tossed into my toolbox. Then I opened her closet, pulled down every designer bag and pair of shoes I'd bought over the years, and started boxing them up. I didn't touch her photos or keepsakes. That wasn't revenge. That was a cleanup. After the closet, I changed the locks, front, back, even the damn mailbox. I'd installed every one of those locks myself when we bought the house, so swapping them out took less than an hour. I didn't sweat it. I didn't rage. I just did it like I was checking off a list. Next up, her car. It was in my name. I moved it to my buddy Dean's place on the west side of town. I'd let her know where to pick it up. Eventually. By the time she got to the club, I was already miles ahead of her. See, I'm not the kind of man who waits around while someone burns down the life we built. You want freedom? You get it, with all the consequences that come with it. I sat at the kitchen table and poured myself a second beer. Then I reached for the new phone I'd bought that afternoon. It was prepaid, untraceable, and already paired with a remote monitoring app I'd secretly installed on Liz's phone 2 days ago. She never noticed. Most people don't, especially not when they're too busy playing games. I tapped into the feed. Her GPS pinged a club in Midtown, one of those bougie rooftop lounges where people pretend they're famous. I turned up the audio and heard her giggling with Nora. Something about fresh meat and tonight's adventure. That was all I needed. I closed the app and set the phone down. Then I logged into our joint bank account and transferred half the money into a private one I'd set up that morning. After that, I canceled the backup credit card she carried, the Amazon account, and the shared streaming services. Petty? Maybe. But I paid for every damn one of them. And she wasn't going to use my dime to fund her self-growth. She'd made a choice. I was just helping her live with it. I went out to the driveway around 2 a.m. and sat in the truck, watched the stars, thought about everything. The anniversaries, the late-night talks, the way she used to reach for me in her sleep. All of it is poison now. All of it is fake. But I didn't cry, didn't scream. I just felt a stillness settle in my chest, like cold metal cooling after a weld. This wasn't heartbreak. This was war prep. And tomorrow? Tomorrow, I'd start cutting the wires she didn't even know were holding her life together. Saturday morning came slow and quiet. I brewed coffee, black and bitter, the same way I felt inside. No text from Liz. No call. No apology. Just silence. And I didn't chase it. I wasn't chasing anything anymore. I opened the monitoring app and let it sink. The microphone kicked in first. Liz and Nora were still passed out, laughing in that lazy, hungover kind of way. Then the GPS said what I already knew. She didn't come home. She'd stayed at some guy's apartment off 8th Street. Then I heard her say it. No regrets, she told Nora. He was exactly what I needed. I sat back in my chair and stared out the window for a while. Not in disbelief, just confirmation. It's funny how hearing the truth, even when you expect it, still hits like a hammer. But I didn't get loud. I didn't punch a wall. I just took another sip of coffee and opened my laptop. If she was free to roam, then I was free to move on strategically. By noon, I'd separated all our finances. Every shared account now had a private twin. I transferred my company shares into a holding trust with a clause to prevent marital claims. I froze the home equity line, canceled her supplementary insurance policy, scrubbed her name from everything that mattered. One by one, I dismantled the life she thought she was entitled to. Then came the legal prep. My buddy Anthony, who runs a high-end security firm, owed me a favor. I sent him the surveillance data, locations, call logs, timestamps. He smiled through the phone. "Do you want this clean or loud?" he asked. "Clean first, loud later." I wanted evidence, not a scene. I wanted documentation, not drama. I wasn't interested in shaming her in the streets. Not yet. This was about leverage, position, power. By the time Liz rolled back into our neighborhood that evening, I already had screenshots, transcriptions, and a timeline tight enough to hang a judge's gavel on. She didn't even knock, just stood at the front door, trying her old key like nothing had happened. Click. Nothing. She tried again. Then she knocked. I opened the door halfway, cool and still, beer in one hand. "What the hell, Tim?" she barked. "You changed the locks?" "I told you," I said evenly. "Walk out that door for another man, and you don't walk back in." Her jaw dropped. "I thought we were going to talk about this. Explore it. It's not cheating if we agree." I narrowed my eyes. "We didn't agree. You talked. I listened. Then I made a choice. Just like you did." She tried to push past me, but I didn't move. "Where's my car?" "Stored somewhere safe. Title's in my name. You'll get it back once I get some things from you." Her lip curled. "This is ridiculous. You're being controlled." "No," I said, voice low. "I'm being done." She didn't expect it. That cold finality. She looked behind me, as if hoping to spot a shred of the man who used to fold at her tears. But he was gone. "You wanted freedom," I said. "So go be free." I closed the door gently, locked it, and walked away without looking back. That night, I lay in our bed alone and didn't feel a thing. No ache, no pity, No rage, just clarity. I was officially done being her foundation while she danced in someone else's arms. And from now on, every step I took would be mine, and hers to regret. The next weekend, I shaved close, put on my cleanest jeans, black shirt, and leather boots, the kind of look I hadn't worn since our early dates. Not for Liz, but for me, for clarity, for precision. Then I drove to the club. Yeah, that club. The same rooftop bar where Liz had laughed her way into another man's arms, where Nora, her so-called best friend, egged her on. I figured if they liked playing with fire, I'd bring the gasoline. Nora was there, alone at first, sipping some neon cocktail and scrolling her phone like every night was an audition. She spotted me across the room and paused, just long enough for the surprise to bloom in her eyes. I walked up, calm and collected, and gave her a half smile. "Tim?" she said, blinking. "Didn't expect to see you here. Figured I'd see what all the freedom fuss was about," I said, resting my hand lightly on her lower back. She laughed, a little too loud. "Liz isn't gonna like this." "Good," I said. "She's not my problem anymore." Nora looked at me, and something shifted. She'd always flirted when Liz wasn't around. Just subtle stuff. A hand on the shoulder too long, compliments on my build, fake laughs at bad jokes. And now, with Liz out of the picture, she leaned in like she'd been waiting her turn. We danced. Slow, then faster. Close enough for every guy in the room to notice. Close enough for the bartenders to whisper. And when her hands wrapped around my neck and our hips locked up, I knew exactly what kind of message I was sending. This wasn't about desire. This was about theater. We left the club around 1 a.m. Nora pressed against my arm, giggling like a girl on her first ride. I didn't say much, just opened the car door, let her in, and drove through the quiet night with the windows down and the weight of months peeling off my shoulders. We ended up back at my place, the one Liz walked out of, the one she'd forgotten wasn't hers to come back to. It wasn't about love. Hell, it wasn't even about lust. It was about sending a bullet-shaped message right through the last of Liz's self-righteous delusions. We fell asleep sometime before sunrise. I don't remember if it was on purpose, but I do remember the knock. It was light at first, then harder, then the sound of a key trying the lock, followed by a frustrated grunt. I got up slowly, shirtless, while Nora curled up under the blanket, opened the door, and there stood Liz, hair messy, eyes puffy, confusion painted all over her face. "Where's my—" she froze. Her voice caught halfway through whatever lecture she thought she was about to give. Because there, behind me, plain as day in our bed, was her best friend. Naked shoulders, familiar sheets, lipstick still smudged from last night's dance. "Morning," I said, voice even. You slept with her?" "No," I said. "She slept with me. You said we needed growth. Just figured I'd grow a little, too." She stood there shaking, fists clenched, lower lip trembling like she couldn't believe I had the audacity to hit her with the same kind of betrayal she tried to pretty up with buzzwords and cheap perfume. "This is sick," she whispered. "No," I said, staring her dead in the eye. "What you did was sick. This is just me waking up." Then I shut the door in her face. No yelling. No gloating, just a clean break, the way steel snaps in cold air. Behind me, Nora stirred. "Was that?" "Yep." She rolled back over. "Guess she knows now. She knows one thing," I muttered, walking into the kitchen. "I'm not the one she gets to walk over anymore." After that night, something inside me shifted, not out of spite, but precision. I wasn't hurt anymore. I was motivated. I was calm in a way that made people nervous. The way a man gets when he knows exactly what he's doing and stops explaining himself. Liz didn't call, not for a few days, but the whispers, they started right away. Because I didn't stop with Nora. I started showing up to places I'd never gone before. Bars, cafes, the local charity mixer. All of them conveniently connected to Liz's circle. I wasn't chasing women. I was selecting them, carefully. One worked in HR at Liz's firm. Another used to be her Pilates instructor. One of them, Leah, was a bubbly receptionist who once told me at a Christmas party that she couldn't believe a guy like me was still with someone like Liz. Now she doesn't have to wonder anymore. I made sure they all knew it wasn't serious. No lies, no games. I just wanted company, and they wanted, well, some revenge of their own. Apparently Liz had stepped on more people than I realized. At first, Liz tried to act indifferent, posted a few cryptic healing quotes online. But then came the texts. "This is cruel. You're ruining my reputation. You're acting like a child." I didn't reply. She had her freedom. I had mine. But the real damage started at her office. One Monday, I get a call from Leah, half laughing, half serious. "Tim, I think you broke your wife." Apparently Liz showed up late, flustered, only to find two of her coworkers giggling over a photo from a Saturday night happy hour. Me, arm around the woman who'd just transferred to Liz's team. HR was already buzzing, and her boss, an old-school guy who frowned on drama, called her in for a chat. You could see the unraveling in real time. She stopped posting, stopped smiling at work, started arguing with Nora, who, rumor had it, was no longer answering her calls. I didn't do it to be cruel. I did it because she kicked open a door and assumed I'd stay sitting quietly on the couch while she explored the world. But I wasn't built to be left behind. And just like that, she started realizing what it meant to lose a man who held the center of everything together. Not because I yelled, not because I begged, but because I vanished one piece at a time. One night, I stopped by a bar near her office, walked in with Leah on my arm, cool as ever. We ran into two of Liz's colleagues, both of whom I recognized. The older one smiled and nodded. The younger one leaned in and whispered, "So you're Tim." "Guilty," I said. They laughed, bought me a drink, called me a legend. I didn't feel like one. I just felt clean. I'd taken the pain, the betrayal, and turned it into quiet precision. No shouting matches, no name-calling, just moves measured, sharp, and irreversible. Later that night, Leah leaned against me in the truck and asked, "Do you ever feel guilty?" I looked out at the city lights and said, "Only for not doing it sooner." It started with a text. "Can we talk?" 2 weeks of silence, then that. I stared at it for a while, not because I didn't expect it, but because I did. Right on cue. The fallout at work, the friend group splintering, the cold bed, the realization that the month of growth ended in ash. I didn't reply right away. Let it sit. Let her stew. Then, 2 days later, I responded, "Dinner at 7. At the house." She showed up on time, hair straightened, no makeup, trying to look humble. She stood in the doorway like a ghost trying to come back to life. "Hi," she said softly. "You look good." I didn't smile, just stepped aside and let her in. We sat across from each other in the dining room. No candles, no wine, just two people who used to be something, now trying to act like there was still glue between the cracks. "I made mistakes," she began. "I know that now, and I hate how far things went. I thought I needed clarity, but I just made everything worse." I said nothing, just stared, let her dig her own trench. "I want to try again," she finally said. "Start fresh. I know I hurt you, but maybe we can rebuild. We were supposed to have a family, Tim." That part almost hit. Almost. I leaned back, folded my arms. "You still talk to Nora?" Her face cracked. "No." She turned on me and the second thing got hard. Said I was selfish. I nodded slowly. "You were." She winced like I'd slapped her. "But maybe," I said, "there's a way forward." Her eyes lit up. Hope. That old manipulative glow. "Really?" "Maybe," I replied. "I've been thinking about redoing the spare room. Could turn it into a nursery. If we're gonna do this, it needs to be for real." She reached for my hand. "Yes, absolutely. I'm ready." I let her hold it, just long enough to believe the lie. That night, she stayed, slept in the same bed, smiled at me over coffee the next morning like we were newlyweds again. She had no idea, because while she unpacked a few bags, I was finalizing the guest list. A backyard barbecue, friends, family, Anniversary celebration, I called it. A new beginning, I said, and she clung to the idea like it was her lifeline. I ordered new patio lights, had the grass trimmed, hired a catering crew, even bought her favorite wine. She thought we were healing, but I wasn't rebuilding a marriage. I was constructing a stage, one where everyone could finally see who she really was, and more importantly, who I had become. The sun was out, music low, grill smoking, friends laughing. It looked like a celebration because that's what I told them it was. An anniversary cookout. Our new beginning. I watched Liz flit around the yard in her sundress, wine in hand, hugging my mother, chatting with my cousin, beaming like she'd just pulled off the comeback of the century. She thought this was her victory lap. She didn't know she was the main act of the execution. I let her have her moment. I played along. Hand on her back, polite smiles, small talk. Clara stood at the edge of the yard, dressed in a soft blue summer dress, calm, composed. No one suspected. Not yet. Liz had asked about her earlier. Who's she? An attorney, I said. Helped me with some contracts. Not a lie, just not the whole truth. When most of the guests had arrived, family, co-workers, neighbors, I clinked my beer bottle against the patio umbrella pole. The music dropped. Conversations tapered off. I just want to say a few words, I said. Thanks for coming out today. Some of you have known Liz and me since we were kids. Some of you saw us get married right here in this backyard. And after everything this past year, we thought we owed it to ourselves to celebrate where we've been and where we're going. A few people nodded. Liz smiled, touched her chest like she was overwhelmed. So, I continued. In the spirit of growth and honesty, I'd like to share something with all of you. I pulled a manila envelope from behind the cooler. This is our anniversary gift. Liz tilted her head, still smiling. What's this? She whispered. A closure package, I said. She blinked. Then I laughed nervously. What are you talking about? I handed her the envelope. It's everything you said you needed. Freedom, growth, self-discovery. I just helped you finish the paperwork. Her hands started to shake as she pulled out the first page. Legal header, divorce petition, with receipts, timestamps, screenshots, statements, even a list of names. Her friends, her co-workers, the men, the messages. This isn't, Tim, what the hell is this? She stammered. This is me giving you exactly what you asked for, I said, voice steady. You wanted freedom. I gave it to you. You wanted self-exploration? You had it. You wanted to sleep around while I waited at home like a damn fool? Well, congratulations. You just bought the consequences. Gasps moved through the crowd like a wave. I trusted you, I continued, louder now, letting it echo off the fence. I built a life around you, paid for everything, protect you, and you threw it away for some empty therapy buzzwords and a few sweaty nights with strangers. Liz was frozen, red-faced, trembling. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. And in case you're wondering who'll be representing me, I added, turning to Clara, I'd like you all to meet Clara, my attorney, and my partner. Clara stepped forward, calm and graceful, holding her daughter Ellie's hand. The little girl gave Liz a confused smile. Clara didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Liz's eyes locked on her like she was staring down a bullet. You were so busy reinventing yourself, I said. You didn't notice the man you betrayed had already moved on. My mother stood off to the side, arms crossed, jaw clenched in quiet approval. My brother gave me a slow nod. And Liz? Liz dropped the envelope and ran inside. I heard the bedroom door slam. Then silence. I turned back to the crowd. Now, who wants ribs? Laughter broke the tension. And just like that, life moved forward without her. One conversation. One barbecue. One final, unforgettable moment where the world stopped pretending, and she stopped believing she could ever come back. It didn't happen overnight. After the party, after the door slammed, after the whispers and texts started flying through Liz's world like shrapnel, I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I just kept doing what I'd already started, moving forward. The divorce went fast. Clara made sure of that. Liz tried to stall, cry, spin stories. But with the evidence, the witnesses, and the line of scorched friendships behind her, she didn't have a leg to stand on. She signed. She left. Quietly. The house was mine in name and spirit. I repainted the bedroom, tore out the old vanity, donated her furniture, set her boxed-up life on the porch one final time with a text. Pick it up by Saturday, or it's gone. She picked it up. Didn't knock. Didn't say a word. Clara and Ellie moved in 3 months later. Not because we rushed it, but because it felt right. Clara was steady, warm, no games. Ellie was 5 and shy, always clutching a stuffed rabbit with a chewed ear. But she lit up around me, started calling me Mr. Tim before she called me Dad. We didn't try to make anything perfect. We just let it breathe, let it grow. Sometimes on quiet nights, Clara would ask if I still thought about Liz, and I'd be honest. Sometimes I'd say, sitting with her on the porch swing, but not with anger, more like memory, like an old scar you can still feel when it rains. She always nodded. She knew the feeling. Liz moved across town, took a job at a smaller firm. Word had gotten out about the party, about the dating spree, about how the woman who wanted growth lost everything she thought she controlled. Her circle shrank. Even Nora moved away, burned out and bitter, last I heard. One afternoon, 6 months after the party, I ran into Liz at the grocery store. She was in the frozen food aisle, pale and thinner than I remembered. Her eyes looked older, tired in a way that no amount of sleep could fix. She didn't recognize me at first. Then her eyes widened. Tim. I nodded. Liz. A long pause. I just wanted to say. She started voice catching. I'm sorry. For everything. I looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't feel heat rise in my chest. Didn't feel the sting. Just distance. I know, I said. Took you long enough. She looked down at her basket, frozen dinners, instant soup, discount wine. I'm glad you're doing okay, she said softly. I gave a slight nod. Yeah, I am. She didn't ask about Clara. Or Ellie. She didn't need to. The wedding band on my finger said enough. We parted ways. No shouting. No accusations. Just 2 people who had walked into the fire, one who burned and one who forged something new. That night, I came home to Ellie building a Lego tower on the living room rug. Clara was in the kitchen, humming to herself while dinner simmered on the stove. I kissed her on the cheek and wrapped my arms around her waist. You all right? She asked. Better than all right, I said. Grateful. Some wounds, I realized, don't heal by force. They don't vanish with time. But when you stop picking the scab and start building something better, you don't need to forget. You just need to move on. I held my son for the first time on a quiet April morning. Clara lay in the hospital bed, exhausted but glowing, her hand resting gently on my arm while I cradled Liam against my chest. He was 7 pounds, full of fire, and as soon as his tiny fist wrapped around my finger, the last of the past loosened its grip on me. There's a kind of peace that doesn't make noise. It just settles inside you, slow and sure, like a sunrise after a storm. That's what fatherhood felt like. I wasn't thinking about Liz, not about the lies or the club, or the smug look she wore the night she left to explore. None of it mattered anymore, because what I had now wasn't revenge. It was redemption. Liam's first week at home was a blur of diapers, night feeds, and soft lullabies Clara sang in the hallway. Ellie tiptoed around the crib like a proud big sister, whispering secrets to him when she thought no one was watching. Sometimes I'd catch her pressing her rabbit's ear to Liam's tiny chest like it was some ancient rite of passage. I watched it all unfold with a quiet heart, and I thought, this is what was waiting for me on the other side of betrayal. A few weeks later, I stood in the backyard, same spot where I'd once served Liz divorce papers and grilled burgers for Clara's parents. Ellie was chasing bubbles with the neighbor's kid. Clara was rocking Liam under the patio shade, and the house behind me finally felt like home. The house hadn't changed. I had. I'd rebuilt everything from the ground up. Not with rage, not with revenge, but with clarity and grit. I'd been forged in fire, and now I stood whole. Every man gets tested in life. Some break, some beg, some stay silent and suffer. But some of us, we draw a line. We hold it. We bleed if we have to, but we don't fold. And when the storm finally passes, we build again. Stronger, smarter, harder to shake. I get emails sometimes from guys I used to work with, old friends who heard about the party or the divorce. They ask how I got through it. Ask how I stayed calm. Ask how I came out better instead of bitter. And I tell them the same thing every time. You don't win by yelling. You win by living better. One evening, Clara found a box in the attic. Old photos, some of Liz's things I never tossed. She asked if I wanted to go through it. I looked at it, then at her, and shook my head. Burn it, I said. We did, right there in the fire pit. Watched the past curl into smoke and drift into the stars. That night, after the kids were asleep, Clara leaned against me and said, "Do you ever wish it happened differently?" "No," I said without hesitation. "If it had, I might never have ended up here." I kissed her forehead, held her close, and stared into the flames. Because the truth was simple. Liz wasn't my ending. She was just the detour that showed me what kind of man I really was, and what kind of life I truly deserved.